Hello everyone, Lawrence here with the Anidees Crystal Cube. Now, I've already reviewed this case, but this is a slightly different version of it that I thought was interesting enough to talk to you guys about. So, the main thing is that we finally get a case with a mesh front panel. So many cases these days have horrible airflow because of just tempered glass or metal front panels. This one will let you put 4 120mm fans in the front, giving you massive amounts of airflow, so your hardware will stay nice and cool. If you turn it on, so there are different SKUs of this case available. The one I have right here is the MAR, so it's the mesh but with all the RGB stuff going on. There's also a mesh light version which doesn't have the RGB or the fans if that's what you're into, and as we'll see later on in the video, I would probably go with that one instead of this one. Now the main thing with this case is of course the airflow, so let's get you guys right up to that front panel and see what it's like. So the front panel is massive, mesh everywhere. There's even some extra little airflow slits around the side, so you can definitely get all the air inside this case that you could possibly want. What you can see right here is a blank plate, so this is where the I/O can be. It actually comes with the I/O on this side, on the left side of the case. But what's really nice is that I was actually able to reposition it over here to the right side of the case. Now, I/O is dual USB 3.0s, dual USB 2.0s, you get your HD audio, and a hard drive activity light which doubles as a reset button. So you can just take the front panel off by just, well, yanking it out. And inside here is the mesh. It's screwed in place so you can actually take it out and paint it should you want to. Really nice little feature. There is no dust filter on here though, other than just the mesh itself. It is a very fine mesh, really difficult to see, but it's not like a cloth dust filter. It's like, you know, a mesh dust filter. Behind there, of course, are the 4 RGB fans in the front. So these are 120mm fans. And what's really nice is this model comes with a little remote. So if you want the fans to be off, you can just turn them off or on. If you just want like a fixed color, you can do that as well. It also has white, so it's RGBW, this one. And then you can also just have it do all sorts of modes. There's definitely something for everyone here. Key thing with the lighting, however, is that it is compatible with ASUS, MSI and Gigabyte motherboard control. So you can use that as well, other than just this remote. And then if you press the auto button, your motherboard will take control of it. You can also set the speed of the effects and even the brightness. So if you want really low brightness, you can definitely get that as well. That's about it for this remote and the light effects on the fans. The lighting is really nicely done. It's very bright, very vivid lighting. But the thing I kind of dislike about it is how loud these fans are. They say it's quiet with their rifle bearings and all, but just listen to it right now. That's at the lowest mode. And I would personally say that's a bit too loud. If you put it on the loudest mode, it's actually very loud. And it's almost so loud that I personally wouldn't be able to have this case right next to me all the time, which is a shame because it looks really good. Now, something some of you may have already noticed is there is a breakout metal plate at the top. So you can put like an optical drive in here, and then you would have to remove the front panel each time you use it. But I actually like this approach because I haven't used or touched an optical drive in years, but I can imagine that there is some weird reason why you would have to do that, and then having that option is definitely nice. Also, you could just use it for a bay style reservoir or pump if you're going with water cooling. Now let's move to this side panel. It's pretty dark when it comes to the tint of it, but this is 4mm thick tempered glass. Super shiny. It doesn't come with protection, so it can get a little bit smudged during installation. Now inside here is room for a full-size ATX motherboard, even eATX, but then you don't really have a lot of room here in the front. You can put a graphics card up to 33.5 centimeters in here if there are no internally mounted fans. If you're putting a radiator here, or radiator plus fan, that obviously is going to shrink that room a little bit. There's a lot of room here in the top, so that's 5 centimeters there for more radiators or fans. Now the top of the case Has a very similar mesh to it. So this is the magnetic stuff. And then you can also put 140s or 2x2 120s in there for your radiator needs and all that sort of stuff. And this whole top side is completely open. So if you want to put your radiator in the wrong way round or something, you have all the room for that. There's also a little dust filter in the bottom. So if you want to have an extra fan here blowing on your graphics card, that will be a filtered intake. It slides in from the side, which is always handy with a case like this, when you don't have to reach around and all that sort of stuff. There really isn't any way to route or manage your front I/O cable, so your audio, USB, and well, the button. The cables are just here, so you might want to put a fan in here in the bottom just to hide those cables. Other than that, massive room for CPU coolers if you go air cooling. This is a Darkrock Pro 3, fits perfectly fine. If we move towards the rear, you can see why. So the case is a cube chassis, of course, 120 over here, about a centimeter of vertical adjustment, but no 140mm fan room, although there would probably be enough space if you go all the way up to the side. But definitely almost all CPU coolers will fit in here. 7 PCIe expansion cards plus 2 over here. But the thing is, there is this little bracket on here and you can't use a higher than standard size graphics card, as you can see here, with the bracket still in place. In order to install or remove a graphics card, this entire thing has to swing out, and that's, quite annoying to do. There's also room for a little fan over here for the hard drives, as we'll see in just a bit. And so the other side, again, tempered glass, very thick glass as well. And then over here you can see what I would call the messy side of the case. As I said, there isn't really a lot of room to manage your cables on the main side of the chassis. It's very similar on, well, the other side of the chassis. So while there is room here for like a pump and a tube reservoir and all that, there's not really anywhere to put your cables, so they're just like dangling here. I would probably suggest not putting any light on this side and going with all black cables. Just to clean stuff up a little bit. Now there is room over here for 2 hard drives and a 2.5-inch drive. I use it just to stash cables in, as well as the little controller for the RGB fans and the RGB strips in here. An interesting thing with this case having a solid glass side panel is the power supply location over here. Now as you can see, it's mounted vertically. And in my case now, the fan actually is sucking air from behind the motherboard. I did a very similar thing when I designed and built my own case, Unicorn Project 1. It works, but your power supply will run slightly hotter, so you might want to get a power supply that has a really good efficiency rating, so it doesn't heat up all that much, and you want to get one with a decent fan in there as well. That said, this part of the case, of course, also gets a lot of airflow from those front 120mm fans that are over here. Now, what's really interesting is you can switch it up where you have 140s on one side and then you can put smaller fans on the other side, and basically split the fans the same way the chambers in this case are split. But that was pretty much it with the mesh version of this case. I personally really like the fact that it has a mesh option now, because I was a massive fan of the original all glass version. However, I probably wouldn't personally buy it with the RGB fans. I would get the version without the fans and get my own fans from a brand like Be Quiet or Noctua. Right then guys, so if you like this video, please hit that like button. If you want to buy it, there will be an Amazon link in the description below. But for now, massive thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.